What's going on YouTube? Listen up, young elder gang. This is Shalonda Williams, one of Big Mama's daughters, the lawyer and real estate agent at You with Another Banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe, and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes. In the following video, you will find history, definitions, scripture information, and best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning, the truth. Keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for educational and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it today. Be sure to hit that like button, young elder gang. Hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. Hit that bell and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. All right, let's get started. Today we're talking about real estate for beginners. Now, today's video is not intended to sound condescending in any way, shape, or form, but real estate has a language to itself. If you understand some of the most important basic words and principles, it can help you understand how to make a lot of money. So, you want to make a lot of money in real estate, you got to learn some of the basic language. I remember when I jumped into real estate and I was hearing words like equity and cash flow and landlord, and I was like, what do these words mean? So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to take this daunting vocabulary and I'm going to help you understand some of the basics of it that will help you really get into the whole game of real estate. I'm hoping to bring that clarity to you right now. All right, I'm hearing you're asking some really elemental questions. Recently, I posted a video called, What is a Dead Pledge? And I was blown away at how popular that topic was. And so based on some of the recent questions and concerns you've had, I've decided to produce a really simple Real Estate 101 Hustlers manual and language. So what I've got some different words or terms I'm going to do here. I'm going to map out what they are and what they mean, and I think that'll be really helpful for you. So first of all, let's start with the most basic word up here. Okay, we're just going to the dictionary. We're going to the terms. So those of you who watch any of my other videos here, I don't want anything to go over your head, and this is a good opportunity for you to put comments below to ask other vocab questions, other things that I talk about that maybe I'm taking for granted and that you should understand these things. But listen, we all start in a world where these concepts are foreign. So today is brought to you by the words real estate, equity, mortgage, down payment, landlord, tenant, flipping, adjustable rate mortgage, back end, broker, loan, deed, title, mineral rights, amortization, balloon payments, bridge loan, contract bonds, escrow, assessed value, buy down, foreclosure, listing agent, closing costs, conventional sale, land lease, leasing, probate sale, real estate owned, REO, rent back, subject to inspection, short sale, trust sale, tenancy in common, TC, appraisal, contingency, and rentals, just to name a few. Now, I want to be really clear that in real estate, we've got different names for this or that. When we're buying a piece of real estate, you have a lot of different types. One of them is called a single-family home, or SFH, and you'll see that abbreviation if you look in the ads. Single-family home just basically means this is a regular home that one person is meant to rent. Now, all of a sudden, if it is a home that is split and has two doors, they have a different name for it. It's called a duplex, okay? And then, of course, if you have one home with the single door, but it's connected to a whole bunch of other homes just like it, it's probably called a condo or a townhouse. So for me, I specialize often in this whole game of single-family real estate, so SFH, single-family homes, right? So that's what we mean by home. Next, I want to talk about the word equity, and I want to talk about the word mortgage. Okay, if I want to buy a home, and let's say this home is $150,000 US dollars, most people don't have $150,000 saved up in the bank. How are young people buying houses today? Well, what they'll do is they'll go to a bank, they'll give the bank a little bit of money, and the bank will give them a mortgage. The mortgage is another name for note. Now, we already broke down what a mortgage really is. On our tape, what is a dead pledge? We have the links to that class in the description. Okay, back to the bank. You go to the bank, you sign two pieces of paper, remember? One of these papers is the promise note, which is not notarized. That's where the bank says, all right, we looked at your job history, we looked at the money you're making, we feel comfortable with you, we're actually going to give you a mortgage, which means we're going to lend the money to you. So let's just say for a moment you put up the typical 3% or 5%, but for easy math today, we'll call it 10%. Let's say you came with $15,000, then the mortgage would be for the difference. So 150 grand minus this 10% down, as in down payment. would be the remaining balance of $135,000. So I put $15,000 as the down payment, and there was $135,000 mortgage. Now that mortgage is going to come with an interest rate because the bank's going to say, we're not giving you our money for free. You got to pay that back over time plus interest. So the bank says, we're going to do a 6% interest rate. And you're thinking, okay, well, if I'm paying this back over 30 years and I've got that interest rate, they'll do some math and they'll tell you essentially what your payment's going to be. Let's just assume for this example that your payment is $800 a month, okay? That's just a guess out of the wild blue. This $800 is your mortgage payment, okay? Now we've got a home. It's a single family home. It's not a duplex, not a condo. It's not a triplex or multifamily. It's just a home with one door and a doorknob and a happy family inside their windows and a chimney like that. Now, let's say that you have this home and you decide we're not going to live there. We're going to rent it out. Another word for rent is lease. So we are going to lease the home. My mortgage is $800, but I might get my renters to pay $1,200 a month. My mortgage payment is $800. My renter's payment or leasing agreement is for $1,200 a month. So this is my rent payment. Plus, I pocket $400 overhead a month. This is my mortgage payment. And the difference is that if you have to pay the bank $800 every month, but your renter gives you $1,000, there's some leftover money. How much? $1,000 minus $800 is $200. What do we call that? That's called cash flow. And cash flow is good. So you buy a property, and let's say all of a sudden that this house, I'm going to throw you a zinger. Now, this house is worth $200,000. It's worth $200, you bought it for $150. You put $15,000 down, you've got a mortgage for $135, but it's worth $200. Here's the question. How much equity does it have? What's equity? The equity is the difference between what it's worth and what you owe. So, in this case, $200,000 minus the $135 is $65,000 of equity. You like that, don't you? Are you learning this language? You can rewatch this video. These are the basics that you want to get really comfortable with. And literally, in the beginning, just copy me. Just copy what I'm saying because I'm telling it to you the right way, okay? So, I've $65,000 of equity. You might say, but Shalonda, what about my $15,000 that I put down? That's not part of the equity, because you would get this $50,000 out plus the $15,000 you put down. The equity represents the total amount between what it's worth and what's owed. By the way, when you do investment real estate, you're looking for equity and you're looking for cash flow. So I wanted you to know, I want to teach you these basics so that you understand equity is a very good thing. Cash flow is a really good thing. Now, before we get to these two really quick power moves, let's just do a quick summary on the story that we told so far. This is a home. It is a single family home, single dwelling, meant for one family. It's not a condo, it's not a townhome, and it's not a duplex, it's not a triplex, it's not multifamily. And this house at the time, I got it for $150K. It was worth $200K. I bought it because it had equity into it. Right there. When I bought it, it had $50,000 of equity, $200K minus $150K. But then I put $15,000 down, so now I have a mortgage of a $135,000, and my total equity between what it's worth and what's owed is $65K. Now is $65,000. My mortgage payment is $800 a month, but I chose to rent it to somebody else. They're paying me $1,000 a month. That leaves $200 a month left over every month. That's called cash flow. Now a couple more things that you'll want to know so you can tell the full story. This $800 a month, is that your PITI? What, Shalonda? Principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. A bank will normally wrap all four of these core components into your mortgage payment. The reality is that your mortgage payment on this $800 might actually only be like $720. The other $80 might include principal, interest, and then taxes and insurance. So, your payment, when you make a payment every month, a part of it goes to principal. That means paying off this $135K. A part of it goes to interest because the bank's got to make money. A part of it has to go to taxes. They'll actually say, hey, you need to make sure you pay your taxes. Because if you don't, then the county will put a lien on this property and that will encumber the property. Encumber means they're going to weigh it down, and the bank says that's a threat to us because we only want our loan to be the loan on it. So every month we're going to take 1/12 of your taxes every month. And after a whole year, we will have collected a year's worth of taxes. And we'll have it automatically paid off so that you don't get behind on paying your taxes. And then insurance. The bank says, dude, the house could burn down. You guys could be crazy responsible or freak of nature, act of God, something wild happens. If there's a flood, an earthquake, and if that house gets hurt, we need to know that our money's not just lost. So we're going to have it insured. Banks will not give you a loan without insurance. So PITI stands for principal and interest. That's the core payment for paying this off over time plus the interest. TI is taxes and insurance. To make sure that the property doesn't get encumbered with unnecessary debts added on that could threaten their mortgage position, and insurance just means that it's covered. Now, we've just spent this video training you on all the basic language of real estate. Here's the last one. Buy low, sell high. What does that mean? I don't want to take it for granted. You need to know it. Buy low, sell high is encapsulated in this very basic idea that it was worth more and I paid less. And if I paid less and then sold it for more, I would what? I'd make money. But the question is, how much of a margin? New word, margin. What is the difference between this and that? For example, $200,000 represents my value. $150,000 represents what I paid. I did put some money down, but leaving that out of it, there's $50,000 of profit to make. When you go to sell it, if you were wrong on your margin here, and you could only sell it for $160,000, then you're like, well, Shalonda, there's still at least a $10,000 difference between 160 and 150. And then I would say, what about realtor fees that are 6%? 6% of 160,000, it's almost $10,000. So that's now wiped out because there's costs when you sell this stuff too. So you think about all these things. So when you buy low, it's like I got to buy low enough to create a tangible benefit. When I sell high, I gotta buy low enough so there is a significant difference, so that after all my costs, I still make enough money that says, this was worthwhile for me. Friends, this is the story of real estate investing. That's what home, mortgage, equity, lease, rent, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and buy low, sell high all mean. And if you get this language down, you're going to have a 6-month head start on me that just was confused after my first 6 months of working with my mentors. Let's just give you the unfair advantage and get you rocking it out now. Watch this again, practice it, learn it. Learning the basic language of this incredible world of real estate. Listen, it's foreign stuff, but if you learn it, you can do extraordinary things. And it doesn't get a whole lot more complicated than this. There is more advanced terminology. But right here, we've covered all the basics. What is real estate? Okay, first of all, let me say real estate. We're actually talking about this is beautiful. We're talking about something real, something tangible, something you can touch. I love real estate investment because I'm actually buying something I can touch. Real estate includes the land and the house. So when we say real estate, there is a value on the land, there's value on the home, and they aren't making more land, which means the value of land over time does what? It goes up in value because it's in demand. The more population increase that we have, the more people want real estate, and so the cost of goods to build a house will go up in value. And so as land goes up or the home goes up, together they create real estate and they create the value of a property. So that is what real estate is. So by the way, as you drive down the road and you see a bunch of apartments, is that real estate? Yes. As you see a commercial high-rise, is that real estate? Yes. As you go through a neighborhood and see single-family homes, is that real estate? Yes, real estate is land, and it's also the property that's on it. Okay? Cool. If I wasn't clear enough on that, you gotta comment below and let me know. Okay, number 2, equity. What's equity? That's a foreign word when you really haven't been playing with it, and so let me talk about it. Here we got a land, here we got our real estate, we got our property sitting right here, and this house has a value of $200,000. That's what it would cost for me to buy this house outright. If I had $200,000 of cash and I give it to the person that owns that property, they would say, you get a title, a free and clear title that says you own this home outright, there's no banks involved or whatever. Or I could get a mortgage where I say, oh, I don't have $200,000 in the bank. Ask yourself, do you have $200,000? If you're watching this video, there's a chance that maybe you don't, and you're here to learn how to have that money in the bank, right? So all of a sudden you're like, you know what? I really don't have the money to buy this house. But I know this, I can go to a bank and I can get a mortgage. and I'll let the bank carry the note. The bank will actually give me the money. Don't give the money to the person that owns the house. And then the bank will say, okay, well, Shalonda, we actually own it, but now you can buy it back from us. We have terms. You can have a mortgage, a monthly payment. Okay. So all of a sudden it's valued at $200,000. But watch this. This is magic. I purchased the property for $160,000. There was some circumstance. There was some reason why the person selling this home sold it to me for $160,000, even though it's worth $200,000. And I went to the bank and the bank said, Shalonda, you need to give us a down payment because we're not going to just buy this house. Because you want us to, you got to show some skin in the game. And because it's the house you're going to live in, we're going to ask you to put 5% down. So the bank says, well, 5% on this $160,000, your down payment is $5,000. The bank says, woof, we got them. Another one in the net. I mean, you're going to be living there, but you put some money in this property, you have some skin in the game. And that brings us to the question, what is equity? Well, I have a house that's worth how much? $200,000. I purchased it for $160,000, but I also put $5,000 down. So now what do I actually owe the bank? Well, I bought it for $160,000. I put 5 more down towards it. Let's say that I owe $155,000. This is what the bank wants me to pay them back generally over the typical mortgage, which is going to be what's called a 30-year mortgage. There are other types, but a 30-year mortgage is where the bank says, oh, well, how much do you have to pay us every month over the next 30 years to pay off that $155,000? And make sure we get some interest along the way, and the bank comes up with the payment. And let's say my mortgage is $1,000 a month. So the bank goes, Shalonda, it's okay. You owe us $155,000. But if you pay us $1,000 every month for the next 30 years, then the $155,000 will be wiped out, and then you can have the house, same as if you had given the people $160,000 cash. So now we have this question. What's the equity? I owe $155,000, but it's worth $200,000. And the difference between what I owe and what it's worth is what we call equity. So, for example, I pull out my handy calculator and I say, what is $200,000 of value minus $155,000 of what I owe? And it's $45,000. My equity on this property is $45K. Okay, I got $45,000 of equity. That's pretty cool. Like, it's a good deal. But guess what happens? You hold this home for 2 years and the house is no longer worth $200,000. It's now worth $220,000. Does that change my equity? Oh yeah, because remember, I owed $155,000. 2 years have passed. I actually now owe $131,000. It's now worth $220,000. What's the difference between $220,000 and $131,000? My equity is not $45K. Now I have $89,000 of equity. Now it's not like I can necessarily go to the bank and I can't roll up to like McDonald's and be like, I'd like a number 2 and supersize me. I'm going to pay for it with equity because equity, it's a number on a balance sheet that is a part of your net worth. Your net worth is what are you as a human being worth based on your assets, not your real net worth. You are precious and priceless, but I'm talking about the things that you have, right? So this house is one of the things that I have, and this house I owe $131,000 on, and it is worth $220,000. So my balance sheet says, actually, I'm worth $89,000. So $89,000? Okay, then we get to this next part. That's what equity is. And then it's like, well, what am I doing with the house? You know what? I've been watching the Young Elders channel here. I'm a subscriber, and I also hit the bell. And that means that I get the daily videos, and I've been getting wise. So I learned how to become a landlord, which means, and here's what a landlord is. The landlord is the person that owns the house. Technically, the bank owns it, or really the government if you're not in your proper person. But we always look at it like we own it, because we're paying the bank off, right? This is my house. Technically, it's the bank's, but it's my house. I control it. I can do some things with it that I want to. And what I'm going to do is, I, as the landlord, I'm not going to live in this house anymore. I'm moving out, and you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a tenant in this home, and that tenant is going to pay my rent, and my rent is $1,300 a month. Well, hot dog, check this out. Do you remember what your mortgage is? Your mortgage is $1,000 a month, but every month. You're collecting how much? What's the difference between the $1,300 I get a month and the $1,000 I need to pay to the bank? $300. That's what we call a cash flow. Now put that at the top here. Actually, put it right on the house. My cash flow is $300 a month. Now just for a moment, calculate that for a year. That's $3,600. That's pretty exciting, right? That is a residual income, or it's often called a passive income. If you have a property manager doing all this stuff for you and you get that $300 no matter what, it's passive whether you work or not, you're going to get paid. Some people call it a residual income, which is, it comes in every month on a natural ongoing basis, okay? So now all of a sudden, who am I as a landlord going to put in my home? That person is called the tenant. So I move out and I now become the landlord because I put a for rent sign up. Someone else says, I'll pay $1,300 a month and live in this house. They move in, I'm the landlord, they're the tenant. This is what we call a rental agreement because we're collecting rent. And the last phrase here is flip. Instead of renting it, we say, no, I'm not going to rent this. I'm moving out of this home. I was only there for a short while, and you know what I want to do? I want to sell this home, and I moved in. I fixed it up a little bit. I put it on the market, and even though it's worth $220,000, I actually listed to sell it for $200,000. This is an important terminology for you. I got it under contract for a $190,000. Let me tell you that story. I'm into it $160,000. I owe $131,000, and all of a sudden I say, well, this house is worth $220,000. Let's give someone a really good deal. And so you list it for $200,000, and someone comes along and says, you know what? I think I want your house, but I want to pay $180,000 for it. You know, like, wait a second, I'm offering it for $200,000. What do you mean you want to pay $180,000? So you come back and you're like, the lowest that I can go is $190,000, and they say, okay, and now you are under contract. That means they have signed a piece of paper called a REPC, a real estate purchase contract to buy it for $190,000, and 30 days goes by, and the bank swoops in, and now that bank buys it out right from your bank, and there's some leftover money in this flip. Remember, you owe $131,000. They bought it for $190,000. We're going to leave the closing costs out of it to keep it really simple. We're going to keep the realtor fees out of it to keep it really simple because you sold it for sale by owner. How much different is $190,000 from $131,000? That's $59,000. You no longer have this house. You no longer own this real estate. But what you do have is a $59,000 check and any money that you made along the way, plus tax advantages. Friends, that's the story of real estate. That's the language. If I were to give you a real quick summary, real estate is property and the land that it's valued with. Equity is the difference between what it's worth and what I owe. A mortgage is the money I owe to the bank to basically buy it from them with time. It can also reference the monthly payment that I have on it. My down payment is how much money I had to give to the bank so that they would feel comfortable doing the deal with me because they say, Shalonda, we want you to have skin in the game. Landlord is who I am when I'm renting this real estate out. A tenant is the person I rent the real estate to. It's called a rental. If I'm holding on to it and cash flowing it and getting my cash flow, and a flip is what I call it, if I buy it to later sell it and to make a profit in friends, that is the basic language of real estate. Friends, I hope today's message on real estate vocabulary was helpful. It brought great clarity for you, and I think you're ready now for some more of the advanced training. So the best thing you can do is to subscribe, ring the bell, and every day when you watch these videos, learn new vocabulary, learn new words, learn new principles. You combine all of this knowledge together, and in a lifetime, this can have a 6- and 7-figure impact on where you end up in your destiny.